You saw the message. You read it. You even typed something. Then deleted it. Put your phone down. And now it's been 3 hours. And somehow, without doing anything, you feel like the bad guy. You didn't plan to ignore them. You just weren't ready to reply yet. But your brain? Your brain has already opened a courtroom, filed charges, and appointed you as both the defendant and the judge. Here's the strange part. You're the only one in that courtroom. The other person has probably moved on with their day. But you're still sitting in that imaginary dock, explaining yourself to no one. Why does something as simple as an unread message do this to you? The answer goes much deeper than you'd expect. And it starts with something called the availability trap. Think about what life looked like before smartphones. If someone wanted to talk to you, they had to find you. They'd knock on your door, call your landline, come to your desk. And if you weren't there, they'd wait. No one expected you to be available every second of every day. Because physically, you couldn't be. Then smartphones arrived. And something shifted. Suddenly your location didn't matter anymore. You could be reached anywhere, anytime. And because you could be reached, people started assuming you should be. Psychologist Larry Rosen, who studies the effects of technology on the brain, puts it this way. We have a responsibility to keep up with messages because we've kind of promised we were going to do that just by being reachable. Nobody agreed to this. Nobody signed anything. But the unwritten rule got written anyway. Be reachable. Be available. Respond. And when you don't, even for a few hours, your brain treats it as a broken promise. Now here's where your brain gets involved in a very specific way. There's a psychological phenomenon called the Zeigarnik Effect, named after Soviet psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who discovered something fascinating in the 1920s. She noticed that waiters in a restaurant could remember every detail of an unpaid order. But the moment the bill was settled, they forgot it almost instantly. Incomplete tasks stay alive in your brain. Completed ones get archived. Your brain is essentially running a background process on everything unfinished. And a message you haven't replied to? That's an unfinished social task. So your brain keeps it open, keeps pinging you. You still haven't replied. You still haven't replied. You still haven't replied. Even when your phone is face down in another room. Even when you're trying to focus on something else entirely. The tab stays open. But here's the layer that makes the guilt so much worse. It's not just that the task is unfinished. It's that the task is growing. The longer the silence stretches, the heavier the guilt becomes, making it even harder to break that silence. Think of it like a snowball rolling downhill. In the first 5 minutes, replying is effortless. Yes, sounds good. 2 words. Done. But you didn't reply in the first 5 minutes. So now an hour has passed. And, yes, sounds good, suddenly feels inadequate. You've been silent for an hour. You need to acknowledge that, right? So now you need a better reply. Something that explains the delay. But then 2 hours pass. And now even a good reply feels insufficient. 3 hours. And suddenly replying feels like a whole event that requires energy you don't currently have. So you don't reply at all. Which adds more weight to the snowball. Which makes replying feel harder. Which makes you wait longer. This internal conflict, knowing you should reply but not being able to, becomes a source of chronic, low-grade stress. Every time you look at your phone, you feel a pang of guilt. And that shame makes you want to avoid your phone even more. Your brain turned a 2-second reply into a mountain. And now you're standing at the bottom wondering how it got so tall. But there's a third layer to this. And this one goes back much further than smartphones. Much further than social rules. It goes back to who you were 100,000 years ago. Your brain evolved in small tribal groups. Groups where your survival literally depended on your relationships. If you were seen as unreliable, as someone who didn't show up, didn't respond, didn't engage, you risked being seen as a threat to the group. And exclusion from the group wasn't just uncomfortable. It was fatal. So your brain developed a hypersensitive social monitoring system. Always checking. Am I maintaining my relationships? Am I meeting my obligations? Is my place in the group secure? And here's the problem. That system never got an update. It's still running in a world of 8 billion people, global connectivity, and WhatsApp read receipts. Research shows that when someone sees their message has been read but not answered, the brain's social exclusion pathways activate. The same neural circuits that process physical pain. Your ancient brain doesn't know the difference between being ignored by your tribe and being left on read by a friend asking what you want for dinner. It just knows social obligation unfulfilled, social bond at risk. Sound the alarm. And that alarm is the guilt you feel. Now here's something most people never consider. What's actually happening on the other side? The person who sent you the message, the one waiting for your reply. They're probably not staring at their phone calculating exactly how long you've taken. Studies on digital communication show that roughly 35% of people report feeling ignored when a message is marked read but not responded to, which means 65% of people aren't particularly bothered. Most people send a message and go back to their day. They check in occasionally, but they're not building a case against you. The courtroom your brain opened? They're not even in the building. The trial you've been running for 3 hours? You're the only one who showed up. And this is the most important thing to understand. Research shows that half of all smartphone self-interruptions happen not because of incoming notifications, but because people interrupt themselves, driven by a gnawing sense that they might be ignoring someone. Half. You're not just responding to their guilt trip. You're creating your own, completely unprompted. Your brain invented an emergency and then responded to it. So what do you do with all of this? First, understand that the guilt is not evidence of wrongdoing. It's evidence that your brain has a very old, very powerful social protection system that hasn't caught up with modern communication. You didn't betray anyone. You didn't break a law. You had a life that existed outside your phone for a few hours. Second, notice the snowball early. The moment you feel the guilt starting to grow, that's your signal. Not to panic, not to force a reply you're not ready to give, but to send a short acknowledgement. Hey, saw this, we'll reply properly later. 2 seconds. Snowball stopped. Third, and this is the one that actually changes things. Stop treating your attention as something you owe everyone by default. You don't owe anyone instant access to you. You owe yourself kindness, pacing, and the permission to be human. The people who matter in your life understand that you exist outside your inbox. And the ones who don't, that's worth knowing too. Your brain isn't broken for doing this. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. It's protecting your relationships with the same intensity it once used to protect your life. The problem is it doesn't know you're not in a tribe anymore. It doesn't know the difference between a social emergency and a WhatsApp notification. But now you do. And that awareness, that small shift, is what separates the people who carry guilt like a backpack everywhere they go, from the people who can put their phone down and actually breathe. If your brain works like this, if you replay conversations, overthink messages, turn simple things into sources of stress that most people would never even notice, you're not alone, and you're not broken. You're exactly who this channel is made for.